Shalom and good morning. Today we are reading from 2 Samuel chapter 15. And it came to be after this that Absalom prepared a chariot and horses for himself, and 50 men to run before him. And Absalom used to rise early and stand beside the way to the gate. And it came to be whenever anyone who had a complaint came to the sovereign with a right ruling, that Absalom would call to him and say, "What city are you from?" And when he said, "Your servant is from such and such tribe of Yashrael," Absalom would say to him, "Look, your matters are good and right, but you have nobody from the sovereign to hear you." And Absalom would say, "Oh, that I were made judge in the land and everyone who has any complaint," sorry, I lost my place, "or case could come to me, and I shall let right be done to him." And it came to be, whenever anyone came near him to bow down to him, that he would put out his hand and take hold of him and kiss him. And Absalom did this to all Yashrael who came to the sovereign for right ruling. And Absalom stole the hearts of the men of Yashrael. And it came to be at the end of 40 years that Absalom said to the sovereign, "Please let me go to Hebron and pay the vow which I vowed to Yahu'ah." For the servant vowed a vow while I dwelt at Geshur in Aram, saying, "If Yahu'ah indeed brings me back to Jerusalem, then I shall serve Yahu'ah." And the sovereign said to him, "Go in peace." And he rose up and went to Hebron. And Absalom sent spies throughout all the tribes of Yashrael, saying, "As soon as you hear the voice of the shofar, then you shall say, 'Absalom is sovereign in Hebron.'" And with Absalom went 200 men from Jerusalem, who were invited, and they went along unsuspectingly and did not know the matter at all. Absalom also sent for Ahithophel the Gilonite, counselor of Daud, from his city, from Gilo, while he slaughtered slaughterings. And it came to be that the conspiracy became potent, and the people with Absalom kept increasing. Then the messenger came to Daud, saying, "The hearts of the men of Yashrael are with Absalom." And Daud said to his servants who were with him at Jerusalem, "Rise up and let us flee. None of us shall escape from Absalom. Go in haste, lest he overtake us quickly and bring evil upon us, and strike the city with the edge of the sword." And the sovereign's servants said to the sovereign, "Look, your servants shall do according to all my master the sovereign chooses." And the sovereign went out, and all his household at his feet. But the sovereign left 10 women, concubines, to look after the house. So the sovereign went out, and all the people at his feet, and they stood still at the last house. And when all his servants were passing on at his side, and all the Kerethites, and all the Pelishites, and all the Gittites, 600 men who had followed him from Gath, were passing on before the sovereign. And the sovereign said to Itaiah the Gittite, "Why do you go? You also with us. Turn back and remain with the sovereign, for you are a foreigner and also in exile from your own place. You came yesterday, and should I today make you wander up and down with us, when I am going wherever I am going? Return and take your brothers back. Love and commitment and truth be with you." And Itaiah answered the sovereign and said, "As Yahuwah lives, and my master the sovereign lives, in whatever place my master the sovereign is, whether in death or life, let your servant also be there." Therefore Daud said to Itaiah, "Go and pass over." And Itaiah the Gilite and all his men and all the little ones who were with him passed over. And all the land was weeping with a loud voice, and all the people were passing over, and the sovereign himself was passing over the Wadi Kedron, and all the people were passing over toward the way of the wilderness. And see, Sadoc also came, and all the Levites with him, bearing the ark of the covenant of Yahu'ah. And they sent down the ark of Yahu'ah, and Abiathar went up until all the people completed passing over from the city. And the sovereign said to Sadoc, "Take the ark of Yahu'ah back to the city. If I find favor in the eyes of Yahu'ah, then he shall bring me back and show me both it and his dwelling. But if he says thus, I have not delighted in you, here I am, let him do to me as seems good in his eyes." And the sovereign said to Sadoc the priest, "Are you not a seer? Return to the city in peace, you and your 2 sons with you, Amiatatz your son, and Jonathan your son of Abiathar. See, I am waiting in the desert plains of the wilderness until word comes from you to inform me." And Sadoc and Abiathar took the ark of Yahu'ah back to Jerusalem, and they remained there. And Dod went up by the ascent of the Mount of Olives, and wept as he went up. And he had his head covered and went barefoot. And all the people who were with him covered their heads and went up, weeping as they went up. And Dod was informed, saying, "Ahithophel is among the conspirators with Absalom." And Dod said, "O Yahu'ah, I pray you make the counsel of Ahithophel foolish." And it came to be that Dod came to the summit, where he bowed himself before Yahu'ah, and saw Hushai the Archite coming to meet him with his robe torn and dust on his head. And Dod said to him, "If you pass on with me, then you shall become a burden to me. But if you return to the city and say to Absalom, I am your servant, O sovereign, once servant of your father, but now I am your servant, then you shall nullify the counsel of Ahithophel for me. And are not Sadoc and Abiathar the priests with you there? And it shall be that every matter you hear from the sovereign's house, you should report to Sadoc and Abiathar the priest. See, there with them are their 2 sons, Ahimaaz, Sadoc's son, and Jonathan, Abiathar's son. And by them you shall send me every matter you hear." And Hushai, Dod's friend, went into the city, and Absalom came into Jerusalem. Chapter 16. And Dod had passed on a little from the summit, and saw Ziba, the servant of Mephisobeth, who met him with a couple of saddled donkeys, and on them 200 loaves, and 100 cakes of raisins, and 100 summer fruits, and a skin of wine. And the sovereign said to Ziba, "Why do you have these?" And Ziba said, "The donkeys are for the sovereign's household to ride on, and the bread and summer fruit for the young men to eat, and the wine for the wearied to drink in the wilderness." And the sovereign said, "And where is your son of your master?" And Ziba said to the sovereign, "See, he remains in Jerusalem, for he said, Today the house of Yashrael is going to return the reign of my father to me." And the sovereign said to Sheba, "See, all that belongs to Mephibosheth is yours." And Ziba said, "I have bowed myself, let me find favor in your eyes, my master, O sovereign." And when sovereign Dod came to Bahurim, he saw a man from the clan of the house of Shaul, whose name was Shimeon. Shimei son of Gera, coming from there. He came out cursing as he came, and he pelted with stones Dod and all the servants of sovereign Dod, and all the people and all the mighty men were at his right and on his left. And this is what Shimei said as he cursed, get out, O man of blood and man of Belial. Yahu'ah has brought upon you all the blood of the house of Shaul, in whose place you have reigned. And Yahu'ah has given the reign into the hand of Absalom your son. And see, you are in your own evil. And you are a man of blood. And Abishai, son of Serayahu, said to the sovereign, why should this dead dog curse my master the sovereign? Please let me pass over and take off his head. And the sovereign said, what have I to do with you, you sons of Serayahu? For let him curse, even because Yahu'ah has said to him, curse Dod, and who should say, why did you do that? And Dod said to Abishai and all his servants, see how my son, who came from my own body, seeks my life, and how much more now this Benjamite. Leave him alone and let him curse, for Yahu'ah has spoken to him. If so be Yahu'ah does look on my affliction, and Yahu'ah shall return good to me for his cursing today. And as Dod and his men went in the way, Shimei walked alongside him on the hillside, and cursed as he went, and threw stones at him and kicked up dust. And the sovereign and all the people who were with him became wary, and they refreshed themselves there. And Absalom and all the people, the men of Yashrael, came to Jerusalem, and Ahithophel was with him. And it came to be when Hushai the Archite, the friend of Dod, had come to Absalom, the Hushai said to Absalom, let the sovereign live, let the sovereign live. And Absalom said to Hushai, is this your loving commitment to your friend? Why did you not go with your friend? And Hushai said to Absalom, no, I am for the one whom Yahu'ah in this place and all the men of Yashrael have chosen, and with him I remain. And besides, whom should I serve? Should it not be before his son? As I have served before your father, so I am before you. And Absalom said to Ahithophel, give your advice, and we should do. And Ahithophel said to Absalom, go into your father's concubines, whom he has left to look after the house. And all Yashrael shall hear that you have made yourself a stench to your father. And the hands of all who are with you shall be strong. So they pitched a tent for Absalom on the top of the house, and Absalom went into his father's concubines before the eyes of all Yashrael. Now the advice Ahithophel gave in those days was as if one had inquired at the word of Yahu'ah. So was all the advice of Ahithophel both to Dod and to Absalom. Chapter 17. And Ahithophel said to Absalom, please let me choose 12,000 men, and let me arise and pursue Dod tonight, and come upon him while he is weary and weak, and I shall make him afraid, and all the people who are with him shall flee, and I shall strike the sovereign alone, and bring back all the people to you, when all return except the man whom you seek. All the people should be at peace. And the saying pleased Absalom and the elders of Yashrael. But Absalom said, Now call Hushai the Archite also, and let us hear what he says too. And Hushai came to Absalom, and Absalom spoke to him, saying, Ahithophel has spoken according to this word. Should we do as he says? If not, speak up. And Hushai said to Absalom, The advice that Ahithophel has given is not good at this time. And Hushai said, You know your father and his men, that they are mighty men, and that they are bitter in being as a bear robbed of her cubs in the field. And your father is a man of battle, and would not spend the night with the people. See, by now he is hidden in some pit, or in some place, and it shall be when some of them fall at first, that whoever hears it shall say, There has been a slaughter among the people who are following Absalom. And even he who is brave, whose heart is like the heart of a lion, would utterly melt. For all Yashrael knows that your father is a mighty man, and those who are with him are brave men. But I advise, let all Yashrael without fail be gathered to you from Dan to Beersheba, as numerous as the sand by the sea, and that you yourself go to battle. And we shall come upon him in some place where he is found, and fall on him as the dew falls on the ground. And there shall be left of him and all of the men with him not even one. And if he withdraws into a city, then all Yashrael shall bring ropes to that city, and we shall put it into the body until there is not one small stone found there. Absalom and all the men of Yashrael then said, The advice of Hushai the Archite is better than the advice of Ahithophel. For Yahu'ah had ordained to nullify the good advice of Ahithophel, for the sake of Yahu'ah bringing evil upon Absalom. Hushai then said to Zadok and to Abiathar the priest, Ahithophel has advised Absalom and the elders of Yashrael such and such, but I have advised so and so. And now send hastily and inform Dod, saying, Do not spend this night in the desert plains of the wilderness, but pass over without fail, lest the sovereign and all the people with him be swallowed up. And Jonathan and Ahimaaz were stationed at An Rogel, and a female servant would come and inform them, and they would go and inform sovereign Dod, for they could not be seen entering the city. But a youth saw them and informed Absalom, so the two of them went away at once and came to a man's house in Baram, who had a well in his courtyard, and they went down into it. And the woman took and spread a covering over the well's mouth, and spread green on it. So the matter was not known. And the servants of Absalom came to the woman at the house and said, Where are Ahimaaz and Jonathan? And the woman said to them, They have passed over the stream of water, and they looked and did not find them, and returned to Jerusalem. And it came to be, after they left, that they came up out of the well, and went and informed sovereign Dod, and said to Dod, Arise and pass over the water quickly, for thus Ahithophel has advised against you. And Dod and all the people who were with him rose up and passed over the Jordan. And by morning light not even one remained who had not gone over the Jordan. And Ahithophel saw that his advice was not followed. So he saddled his donkey and rose up and went home to his house, to his city. Then he gave command to his house and hanged himself, and died. And he was buried in his father's burial site. And Dod came to Mahanaim, and Absalom passed over the Jordan, and he and all the men of Yashrael with him. And Absalom appointed Amasa over the army instead of Joab. Now Amasa was the son of a man whose name was Yithra, of Yashrael, who had gone into Abigail, the daughter of Nahash, sister of Siriyahu, Joab's mother. And Yashrael and Absalom encamped in the land of Gilead. And it came to be when Dod had come to Mahanaim that Shobai, son of Nahash, from Rabbah of the children of Ammon, and the Machir, son of Amihail, from Lo-Debar, and Bazraeli, the Gileadite, from Roglim, brought beds and basins and earth vessels and wheat and barley and flour, and roasted grain and beans and lentils and parched vegetables, and honey and curds, and sheep, cheese of the herd, for Dod and the people who were with him to eat. For they said, the people are hungry and weary and thirsty in the wilderness.